When my fiancée canceled our wedding with a text message, I didn't scream. I didn't call. I didn't beg. I simply replied, "My condolences." Then I forwarded her text to her parents, the ones who had paid for everything. An hour later, my phone was buzzing so violently it looked possessed. But let's rewind, because this kind of destruction doesn't happen overnight. It's slow, calculated, and hidden behind smiles and lace. I'm Nathan Cole, 32. Until this morning, I was 2 weeks away from marrying Lena Hart, 30 years old, flawless on the outside and hollow in all the places that mattered. Our wedding was supposed to be on October 18th, a lavish storybook event hosted in a century-old mansion that looked like it belonged on a magazine cover. Every detail had been chosen with surgical precision, by her, of course, and financed by her parents, Daniel and Margaret Hart, people who treated their wealth like a religion and their daughter like a brand extension. Daniel especially was proud of the arrangement. He once called me a reliable investment. I thought he meant it as a joke. Turns out, I was just another asset in his portfolio. That morning at 9:17 a.m., my phone buzzed while I was reviewing financial data at my office. I remember the numbers clearly because that's the moment my life split into before and after. Hey, I can't do this. I'm not in a place to get married right now. My heart isn't in it, and I need to follow my truth. I'm really sorry. 33 words. That's all it took to detonate 4 years of love, 1 year of engagement, and an entire future that had been planned down to the napkin color. I stared at the screen until the letters blurred. My hands shook. For a moment, the room spun, and I couldn't tell if I wanted to vomit or laugh. There was no conversation, no warning, just a digital breakup. The shock didn't last long. Something colder took its place, clarity. Every odd moment over the past few months suddenly rearranged itself into a horrifying mosaic. The late nights with friends. The phone turned away when I entered the room. The sudden obsession with a life coach named Jasper who preached emotional freedom and inner alignment. I wasn't an idiot anymore. I was awake. I typed 2 words back. My condolences. It felt appropriate. A funeral text for a relationship that had already died. Then, out of pure instinct, I took a screenshot and sent it to Daniel and Margaret Hart. Subject line: regarding the wedding. No explanation. No commentary. Just the truth in her own words. Then I turned my phone face down and buried myself in work, pretending to be calm. I knew chaos was coming, but I wanted it to start where it belonged. At their dinner table, not mine. When I checked my phone an hour later, it was a battlefield. 12 missed calls from Lena, 7 from her mother, and 1, the last one, from Daniel. His contact photo, smug grin, yacht background, glared at me like a ghost. The voicemail preview read, "Call me immediately. Urgent." I waited until I got home that evening before I called him back. I poured myself a whiskey, set my phone on speaker, and hit dial. He answered before the first ring ended. "Nathan," he barked. "What the hell is this?" "Good evening to you too," I said calmly. "I received a text from your daughter at 9:17 this morning." That's the whole story. There was a pause, muffled voices, and then Margaret's shrill tone pierced through the background. "Nathan, darling, she said you two had a fight. She's just nervous. All brides get cold feet. You need to fix this." That sentence broke something inside me. I was the one dumped over text, and somehow I was the emotional janitor expected to clean up their social disaster. "A tiff," I said quietly, "is when you argue over dinner reservations. This was a termination. Your daughter ended the engagement. There's nothing to fix." Daniel's voice returned, sharp and furious. "Do you have any idea how much money is tied up in this?" $150,000, Nathan. The venue is non-refundable. The caterer has already been paid. You can't just let this happen. Of course, it wasn't about love. It was about losses, contracts, and reputation. That, I said evenly, sounds like a conversation you need to have with your daughter. She's the one who canceled. I didn't breach anything. Before it could explode again, another call flashed on my screen. "Lena," I cut him off mid-sentence. "I have to go," and hung up Her messages started seconds later. You told my parents? Are you insane? You're trying to turn them against me. This is exactly why I couldn't marry you. You're controlling and manipulative. Call them right now and tell them we're working things out. My dad is threatening to cut me off. This is your fault. I just stared at the screen. The audacity was breathtaking. No accountability. No remorse. Just blame. I didn't respond. Instead, I walked to my study, opened a small mahogany box on my desk, and stared at the engraved chronograph inside. To Daniel Hart, thank you for welcoming me into the family. Nathan, October 18th, 2025. The date we were supposed to be married. I closed the lid, set the box aside, and poured another drink. The grief hit me for the first time, not for her, but for the illusion I believed in. The next few days were a blur of logistics and quiet fury. Canceling bookings, informing relatives, watching the polite condolences roll, and while pretending to be fine, then came the email from Margaret Hart. Since the wedding is off, you are morally and legally obligated to return Lena's engagement ring. It's only fair that it helps offset the financial losses we've suffered. The ring I had paid for $22,000. They wanted to pawn it. I replied with one sentence and a link to our state's conditional gift law. The ring is my property. Consider the matter closed. But of course it wasn't. 2 days later, mutual friends began reaching out, cautious, confused, asking if I was okay. Lena had started telling everyone I was controlling, distant, emotionally abusive. That Jasper, her spiritual mentor, had helped her break free. I wanted to rage, to expose every truth, every text, every receipt. But instead, I called my lawyer. He listened quietly, then said, "You're in a war, Nathan. You don't win wars like this. You survive them. Document everything. Communicate only in writing. Protect your assets." So I did exactly that. In a group chat for our now-canceled wedding party, I posted, "Hey everyone, just to clarify, Lena ended our engagement last week. It's been difficult, but I wish her well as we both move forward. Neutral, polite, deadly precise. It silenced the rumors faster than I expected. But then, one morning my doorbell rang. Lena stood there, perfect makeup, fake calm, with Jasper beside her. He looked like a tan mannequin in a linen shirt, smirking as if he'd already won. "I need to get my things," she said flatly. I stepped aside. She began walking to the apartment, pointing at random objects like she was on a shopping spree. The TV, we picked it together. The espresso machine, Mom helped buy that. The couch, my parents chipped in. Each time, I corrected her calmly. I paid for that. That was a gift to me. The couch, they gave us $500. "You can have it if you give me $2,500 for the rest of it." Her composure cracked a little more each time. Then she saw the watch box. "Oh, good," she said with a fake smile. "You were going to give that to Dad. I'll take it. It might smooth things over." She reached for it. I moved faster. My hand covered the box. "No." Her eyes widened. "What do you mean, no?" "I bought that for my father-in-law." I said, voice low. "I don't have one anymore." Jasper puffed up his chest. "Hey man, it's just a watch. Don't be a jerk." I looked him dead in the eye. "You're right. It's a watch. And it's mine." Then I turned to her. "Get your clothes and personal items. Nothing else. You have 1 hour." For a second, she looked like she didn't recognize me. Like she was realizing the man she used to control was gone. They left with a few boxes. But I knew that wasn't the end. The war had only changed battlegrounds. The silence after Lena and Jasper left felt strange. Not peaceful, just empty. Her perfume lingered in the air, artificial and sharp, the kind that masked something rotten underneath. I walked through the apartment slowly, looking at the small ruins of what used to be ours. A framed photo from our first trip to New York. Her half-drunk glass of green juice on the counter. It all looked like a crime scene. But I wasn't sad anymore. Just angry. Cold, rational anger. The kind that doesn't burn. It sharpens. My lawyer's words echoed in my mind. "You're in a war. Stay calm. Protect yourself. So I got to work. I opened every shared account, streaming, utilities, insurance, and changed the passwords or closed them outright. I didn't want any part of my life tied to hers anymore. I thought that would be the end of it. It wasn't. 3 days later, I received another email, this time from her mother, Margaret. Nathan, dear, we've been speaking with Lena. We believe you're taking this whole situation far too harshly. It would mean a lot to us if you could return some of the gifts we gave you during the engagement. For example, the espresso machine and that leather jacket Daniel bought you last Christmas. We could use those funds to recover some losses. I read it twice. Then I laughed out loud. It wasn't even anger anymore. It was disbelief. They were treating me like a failed investment they could liquidate. I didn't respond. Silence was louder than anything I could say. A few days later, I started hearing from mutual friends again. The smear campaign was escalating. Now, according to Lena's story, I hadn't just been controlling. I'd been emotionally manipulative, jealous, and borderline abusive. Jasper, apparently, was her spiritual rescuer, the wise man who had opened her eyes to her true self. It was surreal. The same woman who had just destroyed our engagement was now painting herself as a survivor, and me as the villain. But I didn't argue. I knew that in time, people would see her for who she was. And I had something she didn't. Evidence, patience, and control. The next week, I got a call from the property manager. Apparently, Lena's name was still listed as the primary tenant on our lease, and she didn't officially sign off to transfer it fully to me. There could be issues. My lawyer advised me to formalize everything. So I drafted a polite but legally binding letter, sent by certified mail and email. Lena, you have 30 days to coordinate the removal of your remaining belongings and to sign the lease transfer paperwork. Failure to do so will result in legal action for abandonment of property. It was firm. It was clean. It was final. I expected her to ignore it. I didn't expect her to retaliate. A week later, my apartment went dark. I was working late when the lights flickered and died. The internet cut out. The refrigerator stopped humming. Silence. At first, I thought it was a citywide outage. But when I checked my phone's hotspot, everything else in the building was fine. Only my unit was dead. I logged into the power company's website, and there it was. The account under the name Lena Hart had been disconnected for non-payment. In her dramatic exit, she had apparently stopped paying the bills that were in her name. I was standing in darkness because she hadn't paid her last $480 bill. I should have been furious. But instead, I laughed again, a quiet, hollow sound. It was poetic, really. She left me in the dark, both emotionally and literally. The next morning, I called the power company. They told me that because there was an outstanding balance linked to the address, service couldn't be restored until it was cleared or until they verified I was a new tenant, which could take weeks. I needed power. I worked from home. I couldn't wait. So I paid her debt, $480, out of my own pocket. Then I sent her and her parents a short email with the receipt attached. Final utilities paid in full. Consider this the last bill I'll ever cover for your family. Then I blocked them all. For a few blessed days, things were quiet. I almost started to believe it was over. Until Friday. I was in the middle of a video meeting when my phone rang. My doorman, Charles. "Hey, Mr. Cole," he said, his voice hesitant. Lena's down here. She's saying she's still a resident and wants to come up. Her key fob isn't working." My stomach dropped. "Is she alone?" Charles sighed. "She's with that tan guy, the one with the 2 white teeth. He's pacing around, filming everything." "Jasper." "Of course." "Don't let her up," I said, standing up so fast my chair tipped. "Tell her she has to coordinate through me in writing. If she refuses to leave, call the police." By the time I got downstairs, the lobby was chaos. Lena was standing near the reception desk, shouting at Charles. Her face was red, her eyes wild. Jasper was beside her, phone raised like he was directing a scene in a reality show. "There he is," she screamed the moment she saw me. Tell him he can't lock me out of my own apartment." 2 police officers walked in just then, called by Charles, Thank God. Lena immediately switched to performance mode. Her voice softened, trembling. Officers! Thank God you're here. He's illegally evicted me. He cut off my power and locked me out of my home. My things are still inside. It was Oscar-worthy. She even managed fake tears. One of the officers, a tired-looking man with a notepad, turned to me. Sir, what's going on here? I didn't shout. I didn't argue. I looked directly at Lena. Lena, I said evenly, you left. You ended our engagement. You moved out. You received a legal notice to arrange pickup for your things and signed the lease transfer. You didn't. Now you're here, causing a scene. Then I turned to the officer. This is a civil matter. She is still listed on the lease, but she vacated the premises. I've documented everything. I held up the folder with the certified letter, the receipts, everything. The officer sighed, clearly unimpressed by the drama. Ma'am, he said to her, are you currently living here? Well, I'm staying with a friend right now, she stammered. But that's only temporary. He forced me out. Okay, the officer said, his patience thinning. This is a civil dispute. We don't get involved in lease arguments. But you can't stand here yelling and filming people. You're causing a disturbance. Either leave peacefully or we'll cite you for disorderly conduct. The color drained from her face. Jasper lowered his phone slowly, realizing this wasn't the scene he was hoping for. For a second, she just stood there, trembling with humiliation. Then she turned, muttered something under her breath, and walked out. Jasper followed, silent. As they left, Charles looked at me with quiet sympathy. Sorry, man. That was rough. Not your fault, I said. Thanks for handling it. When the elevator doors closed behind me, I exhaled for what felt like the first time in weeks. It wasn't victory. It wasn't even relief. It was just calm. But I knew it wasn't over yet, because there was still one final piece, the lease transfer, and something told me Lena wouldn't let it end quietly. 2 weeks passed in silence. No more calls. No more emails. Just a faint echo of a storm that had finally passed. I thought maybe she decided to let it go. Maybe Jasper had convinced her to move on. But people like Lena don't move on, not when they've lost control. Her lawyer's email hit my inbox on a quiet Tuesday morning. Mr. Cole, our client, Ms. Hart, wishes to recover her personal property from the apartment. She also asserts that several items, including jewelry and artwork, are of sentimental and financial value. We request your cooperation in arranging retrieval within 7 days. I almost smiled. The artwork in question? A framed poster of Jasper's band. The jewelry? A cheap silver bracelet I bought her from a weekend market. Still, I agreed. My lawyer drafted a response. We welcome Ms. Hart to retrieve her belongings. The pickup will be recorded and supervised. Any items left behind after that date will be considered abandoned. When the day came, I was ready. Lena arrived in an oversized hoodie and sunglasses, as if she was trying to disguise herself. Jasper wasn't there this time. Maybe he'd finally grown tired of her drama. I didn't say a word when she walked in. She didn't either. Her eyes darted around the apartment like she was seeing for the first time, or realizing what she'd lost. The ring box was gone, of course. I'd returned it weeks ago. But everything else was exactly as she'd left it. Her designer clothes neatly folded, her makeup drawer untouched. She moved through the place slowly, touching things like they might vanish. Then, suddenly, she stopped in front of the balcony door. You redecorated, she said softly, breaking the silence. I cleaned up, I replied. Her jaw tightened. You always have to sound so smug, don't you? I looked at her calmly. No, Lena, I just finally have peace. That's something you can't fake. She stared at me for a long moment, then laughed, not happily. It was sharp and brittle. You think you've won? You'll miss me. You'll see. But even she didn't believe it. She packed the last of her things quietly, her movements slower now, more hesitant. When she reached the door, she turned once more. I hope Jasper makes you jealous, she said. I hope you see us happy, and it burns you. I didn't even blink. Good luck, Lena. And with that, she left. I closed the door, locked it, and exhaled. For the first time, it really felt over. 3 months passed. I rebuilt my routine, my focus, my peace. Work flourished again. I started running in the mornings, sleeping better, smiling more. Then, one evening, while scrolling through Instagram, I saw her name pop up. A tagged photo. She and Jasper were standing outside a club. Same smug pose, same fake smiles. But the caption wasn't hers. It was from someone else. When your influencer couple owes you for 3 unpaid gigs and still acts like royalty. Curious, I tapped through. And there it was, dozens of comments, tagging them, calling them out. Scams, unpaid promotions, fake sponsorships. Apparently, Jasper had been using Lena's wellness brand to funnel influencer deals into his failing music promotions company. When the sponsors realized it, they started talking. The two of them had become the internet's favorite cautionary tale. Fake love, fake business, fake everything. I didn't feel joy. Not really. Just quiet confirmation that karma has perfect timing. A week later, I got an envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a single check for $180, the exact amount of the power bill I'd paid months ago. In the memo line, one word. Sorry, I didn't cash it. I framed it, because that was the moment I realized revenge doesn't always mean destruction. Sometimes it's silence. Sometimes it's success. And sometimes it's letting the person who tried to break you watch you walk away untouched. That night, I poured a glass of whiskey and stood on my balcony, watching the city lights flicker below. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel bitter, just free. And in that freedom, I finally smiled, not because I'd won, but because I didn't care who did anymore. And with that, our story comes to an end, but the real story begins with your thoughts. What would you do if you were in this situation? Let me know in the comments.